Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Jackson, and I hope you've not been traveling all over.
I've been traveling the world of Cloudlandia from my home in Winter Haven, Florida. That is exactly right. And you, I'm assuming, the same. But
yes,
exploring your
VCR.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, you just emailed me. Yes.
I just emailed it to you. Yeah, it's just I send it out to our key team members this last couple of days, so I really haven't heard much back yet. But I'm just thinking about we're of course focused on doing Zoom workshops all during June, July, and August. On our scheduled dates when we would have had in-person workshops, and then we've got 5 new programs, coach workshop programs scheduled for September, October, and November, which will be pure Zoom. They won't have an in-person component to them, so it'll be
right.
New things. So, but I was just sitting back and our conversations, I was reflecting all of our conversations, and I was saying that quite apart from using Zoom to do this and Zoom to do that and Zoom to do this, I said, well, let's just think about Zoom as a new reality.
That's exactly right.
And that if we have a supporting program that's about Zoom and everybody's explorations with Zoom and their innovations with Zoom, and we had that just as a component program that was, just value added for strategic coach clients. I said it might be very, very interesting to see adding this Cloudlandia component to something. I'm using Zoom here as a general word, but it's really called Cloudlandia.
I like it. I mean, I've had that same conversation with Joe Polish about, you and I talked about this idea that what's happening right now with Zoom is that everybody is adapting it to what the old was, right? As a virtual replacement for the old. So we were doing meetings, but now we're doing virtual meetings or virtual summits or whatever. And it really, has struck me in the last little while observing it that there's so many things that actually Zoom is, better suited for. And now we can start thinking about using the capabilities of Zoom independently of what it was, not looking at it to replace something, but embracing truly what it is. And this kind of thing, like what you're talking about, allows you to have and create a 2 or 3 hour experience that everybody can come in and have a complete thing about it, that you wouldn't have somebody fly to Chicago or fly to Toronto to come for a 2 hour thing. You kind of You know what it reminded me of?
And I get the point. I get the point. I get the point. Yeah, I mean, and I find myself still doing that. I still keep thinking in terms of geography when the real issue is time zone.
Right. It reminded me of you ever heard the old story of the young mother asking her daughter asking her mother, why do you cut the ends off of the pot roast? And she said, I don't know. Let me ask my mother. So she asked her mother, said, why do you cut the ends off the pot roast? I don't know. My mother always did it. That's how she taught me. And then she asked her mother and says, well, when we first got married, our pot was too small, so we had to cut the ends off to fit the roast in. And that's kind of the thing. It's adapting what you have to the tool. And I think it's going the other way, trying to fit a one-day workshop into a more a container that would be suitable for something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of, I can kind of understand, why we do that. Because you have to start with what you're used to before you can focus on what you're not used to. There has to be a foundation. And I was thinking about this, just putting a number of things together over the last couple of weeks, and I've been reading the Peter Zion book. Just on my fourth reading of the Peter Zion, the Disunited Nations. Okay, so all of us have essentially grown up in a world called the United Nations. Okay, the United Nations, and there's actually an organization which Canada was just denied participation on the Security Council. And so our Prime Minister, his goal has been that Canada should be on the Security Council. So there's 5 permanent members of the Security Council, which is kind of odd when you think about it. There's 5 countries who are permanently on this, and that would be the United States, Great Britain, France, Russia, and China. Okay, because those were the 5 allies against the Germans and the Japanese in 1945. But we're still being more or less controlled in this organization by what was true in 1945. Okay, so it's 75 years later. And but the other thing is that Canada doesn't do very much, as a country, anything related to the United Nations. I think we have 30 soldiers now that are somewhere. And you couldn't even really have a first-class marching band with 30 soldiers. You know what I mean?
Oh, Dan, I heard a comedian, there was a comedian talking about Canada, our friendly neighbors to the north. And so he said, let's face it, our Salvation Army could kick their ass.
Well, yeah, and I've heard some good Salvation Army bands,
Right, exactly.
They're really good, but they, this isn't their main focus. They actually do, they have day jobs in the Salvation Army. Anyway, but it just seems to me that this is holding on to old things. And that probably the United Nations is due for it. But, if you looked at the label on the package of the United Nations, probably the expiry date probably ended around 1990, 1991. That's the end of the
along with the wall, when the wall came down.
Yeah,
right?
with the wall. Well, probably when the wall came down. There's jobs there, there's budgets, there's there's habits that
legacy.
The United Nations.
Yeah.
Let's take it to the United Nations. And I've said, that'd be fun. There's some nice restaurants around there. We could take in a few shows. Yeah. I've never been to the top of the Empire State Building. I think when I'm there, I'll go to but it's for what surrounds the institution. It's not for the institution itself, which is, I don't really know what they do to be honest. But I brought up a thought that will pull all this together. I said, let's for a moment not think of Zoom, I'll use Zoom particularly, as a communication system, but it's actually a transportation system. You and I just got transported at 11 o'clock on the dot. You and I got transported to a something else place. It's not it's not in the beaches in Toronto. It's not in Winter Haven, Florida. The two of us just instantly transported to another place. And I was reading a story about how the railroads, specifically Union Pacific and Southern Pacific, made all their money they were given a land grant of a certain amount of land on each side of the tracks that would be permanently theirs if they just got the railroad across to Los Angeles and San Francisco. And that as life went on, decades and a full century, that the real value of those railroads was the land on either side of the tracks.
Right.
So I'm thinking that Zoom is a transportation system, but what's really interesting, what's happening in the territory next to the tracks.
Wow, that's an interesting thought. So what's your observation?
Well, first of all, to be conscious that there is territory next to the tracks.
Yeah.
Think about it. And I said, this is actually for a lot of people thinking of it not as because communication systems are kind of nebulous.
Yes.
We don't actually experience communication systems. Really. But transportation systems we have a total grasp of. And I said, and there's territory. There's virtual territory. Now there's a thing you and I can call it, and this is part of Cloudlandia. We say there is virtual real estate.
Yes.
And you're the expert on real estate, and that you actually did something with real estate that I've never heard of anyone else doing, except maybe franchise organizations or franchise. They grant a certain territory, but they didn't really. You did something very, very different with the real estate, actual real estate. You created a growth strategy within a neighborhood, let's say the Beaches in Toronto, and you said if you started off as a first-day real estate agent, if you thought about it seriously and you thought long range, you could literally spend the rest of your real estate salesperson life inside the geographic territory of the Beaches.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you would have made 5 or 6 sales to the same couple or the same individual.
That's right. Yes, and all the systems around.
And you were selling virtual. You were selling virtual territory, but you were selling a certain kind of virtual knowledge about the virtual territory. It wasn't just the territory, because anybody can say, "Here, this is your territory."
Right.
You gave them a growth strategy, and it involved them knowing a great deal about the future aspirations of their, the real estate customers.
Yes. Yeah, and realizing that there's many territories, if you want to call it that, many of those kind of adjacencies that it's very much like the franchise model.
Yeah.
And now you're thinking, well, I do think that same, if you kind of think about Cloudlandia being infinite in terms of its availability, it's, the real estate. It's, there's nothing. I mean, it's just so amazing to think about just the possibilities within that one thought. That really you can build anything.
Mm-hmm. But you
can visualize. But the geographic constraint.
You can actually visualize it, and I have a preference for things that can be visualized. And, let's say you have a big sheet of paper and you say, this is the, I'll use Zoom. This is the Zoom transportation system. This is where it is. And if all you have to do is plug into it, and you can get anywhere else in the Zoom territory instantaneously.
Yeah, instantly. That's the greatest thing.
Yeah, instantaneously. It's instantaneous. There was always in Star Trek and other science fiction movies the whole notion of teleportation.
You're right.
Well, we are being teleported. We are being teleported. Yeah, and the best part of us is being teleported.
Yes.
Our thinking, the thinking part of our, of ourselves. So,
we just had one. It's not often Dan, that I hear something or listen to a interview that just bends my mind. And I've heard this guy showed up on my radar. Hoffman, I think, is the guy's last name, but he is a mathematician, physicist, I guess, that is talking about creating mathematical equations for consciousness, like describing what that is, right? And the visual that he gave of it is that what we experience as reality, to things you can see and touch and all that stuff, is really a representation of it, of what we're really seeing, that we've evolved to experience, right? And in this iteration, if he talks about that, evolution as the survival of the fittest kind of thing, natural selection is how we've gotten to this point, that we have, edited out all the things to give us the best representation that helps us survive as a species going forward. And that the things that the concept that he had that was really interesting is they run simulations on these kinds of on things. And this game, like if they take game theory on the way that we're adapting, the winning game that we're playing as humans right now is the social cooperation game. And that we're better together than individually, kind of thing. That we as a society, that's working out for us. And that we're developing the things that are, if it's survival of the fittest, that we pursue the activities that have the highest, what he called fitness payoff, right? To evolve your fitness to continue and evolve as species. And I thought about, it's interesting because as entrepreneurs or as things that we're in that same situation, right? We're trying to evolve and progress, and how we spend our time is in the activities that have the highest fitness payoff for us, right? And that the whenever they run the simulation games, the ones that are able to mask out all of the other stuff that's not the fitness payoff, they're the ones that have they always rise to the top. And I thought, man, that's really interesting in terms of we're distracted by so much stuff. When the real fitness payoff is the things that can have the biggest impact, like focusing on our unique abilities, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't have to outrun the bear.
That's exactly right. Just have to outrun me.
There's an offshoot of that when you go swimming in shark-infested waters, you only need two things: a knife and a buddy.
A knife and a buddy. Oh my goodness, that's dark.
That's very dark. It's very dark. It's very, very dark. I mean, advantage is never absolute. Advantage is always relative. It's present. It's present, and it's relative, and it's usually sufficiently short term that short term will make a difference. And I saw a quote. I think it was Napoleon, and somebody asked him the difference between a great general and a bad general, and he said about 10 minutes.
What did he mean by that?
Well, it's just that the decisions that decide a battle are usually 30 seconds. And he said over the course of a lifetime, they probably add up to about 10
20
minutes.
decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, that a decision. And no, I was just thinking about, just missing the train by 30 seconds. But who is on the train, had a relative advantage, and now the advantage keeps getting bigger because it's proceeding, and you've been left behind and you've been left out. And and so why are we noticing this stuff, and why are we talking about it? This is an interesting thing, and I think because both of us have developed over the last 3 years a positive attitude towards procrastination. That we have and that others who haven't done this are caught up a lot with the distractions of feeling badly about themselves and everything because of procrastination. But we've developed a positive attitude. So none of that energy that used to go to isolated suffering is being spent that way. It's all being devoted to what else can we have happen where we don't have to, where we don't have to happen. Let's create Zoom. Zoom.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's create a distinction between Cloudlandia and the mainland. Hey, that's what we can do. That's what we can do.
Yeah.
And so it's a relative advantage. And, it's very, very interesting to me because I've been exploring this envy concept, for quite a long time now. And this book, I continue to read chapter by chapter and looking at it. But it's the fundamental, I thought that all things turn on. Is it inequality or is it inequality? That's the thing that I've come down to. Inequality means that there's massive amount of unfairness, and inequality means there's massive amount of uniqueness. So it's the difference between uniqueness and unfairness. And emotionally, you're going to be committed to one side of that equation or another because you only have so much time and you only have so much, attention that you can devote to something. Right. And I'm noticing during this period when all of a sudden a whole segment of the marketplace has suddenly switched to a new capability, full force, just like that. Yeah. I did it very, very quickly, where a great number of individuals and groups and organizations haven't done that yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's so, and I'm just so excited to be here right now in this, in this transition. I mean, it's so, such amazing times. I mean, it's really, I think I mentioned to you, I was looking in my journal from 1998, and I often use a question to start my journaling process, but the question was, what am I going to do about the internet? Was the thing, because it was starting to feel like it's a real thing now, because I was starting to experiment with it, and then I listed at the time "Stop Your Divorce" and "Living in Winter Haven," which is the concept that you were talking about at the beginning of the call, were the two things that were the very beginning of my entry into the internet, and they both went on and made millions of dollars, and by being right there. And I feel like now I could easily and often have the conversation of, what are you going to do about Cloudlandia? That's really that is, I think, the opportunity that's going to eclipse what the internet was. It's bigger than that, bigger than just the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like it's entirely new territory for pioneering.
Yeah.
You know, it's my map of the U.S. in the 1620. We have a foothold on the Atlantic coast. You know.
Yes.
And,
right.
And there's a great deal we don't know about. What lies beyond the next 100 yards or the next mile.
I think that's what's amazing is I don't even think we've made it past New England yet in the advanced.
Oh no.
You know, yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. And that it was very, very interesting. All the North American exploration, what you now consider the United States and Canada, because they were not differentiated. I always say that Canada wasn't created until 1776. That on 1776, two countries came into existence. One was the United States, and the other one was Canada. And by that I mean that if you were a British, kind of a British-born citizen, or your parents had been British-born, you considered yourself British. But on that day, you had to make a decision: am I committed to being part of a new country that's separate from Britain, or staying with the North American part that is still attached to Britain? And so it's actually the creation of two countries. And but it's very, very interesting because they had definitely a feeling of that they were being British. They're being British, and we have a feeling that we're mainlanders.
Yes, I think that's true. Absolutely. Yeah, especially mainlanders born before 1980.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we knew the world as adults before when it was only mainland.
Yeah.
Amazing. I was watching on YouTube yesterday. I came across a video that was a colorized and frame, speed matched video of a walk down or a ride down Market Street in San Francisco in 1906, and it was somebody had a movie camera, and they were on a trolley, and they ran the camera and were just driving showing the journey all the way up. And I'd seen that picture. I'd seen it before, the black and white version, but it was, shaky and sped up the timing stuff. But somebody took the time to balance it to 60 frames per second and colorize it so it feels like you're going like it's real. It feels like what you would have experienced if you were there. And I'm always amazed when I see colorized photos I've seen of from the 1800s and stuff, and you realize how real these people look, because typically our view into the past has been grainy and black and white and muted tones kind of thing. But to see it colorized as to what they would really look like is pretty amazing.
Peter Jackson film on the First World War that came out about a year ago, and what he discovered is that I think it was the War Museum or the British Broadcasting Corporation just had hundreds and hundreds of hours black and white film that was soundless, because they hadn't created sound at that time. And he took it, and he starts off with it in black and white, and then scene by scene it starts in black and white, and then it completely colorizes. And
wow.
latest techniques in colorize, and slowed down to normal pace.
Right.
Just the way you do that. But not only that, but they would zero in on the soldiers talking, and they got lip readers to actually identify what each individual was talking about.
Wow.
And then they got actors to actually say that same thing. And you come away from it and say, they were the same they were the same as we are. They're just, bunch of, they don't really know why they're doing what they're doing. And
right.
They actually have kind of an understanding that the Germans are most of the German troops are in the same situation as they are. And they've got German prisoners, and they're joking with the German prisoners. They're joking with them, and they're taking their hats off and putting on the German. They're taking the Germans' hat and putting on them, and everything.
Oh, wow.
Like that.
Yeah.
And you begin to realize, and I remember the first time they showed films of the Germans in the Second World War. These would be like the Nuremberg rallies, but they actually had color photography. It's just that nobody was used to color photography, so they didn't really show these in the in the movie theaters where they would have shown them and everything. They would show black and white. And right. I said, I remember I had this thing. No. World War II did not happen in color. World War II happened in black and white. Yeah,
right.
I had this instinctive. I said, no, please. Right. It was a bunch of Nazis. Hitler and Goebbels and that bunch, and they're around and they're in full color and everything. I said, no. I'm sorry. Then it makes them look like okay. I said, I want the black and white. Makes them look more evil.
Yeah, right. Oh man, it's so true.
Yeah,
it's so true.
Yeah.
And now this is the thing with the history looking, back to this time now in 100 years. Is everything's going to be in, HD and so much documented stuff. I mean, the window onto everything now is just everything's recorded.
Well, the history is a lot longer too. Our history. And I was thinking about that with present day, singers. If you take a present day singer. Taylor Swift or Beyonce or everything. I said back in the 50s they just had to compete with the other people who were current with them, but now they have to compete with 60 years of singers.
Right. Yeah, that's true, right? Because back coming up, the people who were the first recording artists. They were, competing with the legacy or the legend of the people who came before them, but there was no evidence of them, nothing competing against. So they were the ones. They became the definitive, right? That's true.
So, and it's really interesting because I have Pandora, and you can. Zero in, you can go into a particular artist and you go in and get the biography of the artist and everything else. And it was just Ella Fitzgerald, 40, 50, probably a 60-year career, pretty much at the top right from the beginning and top all the way through. And I said, I don't really know anything about her. So I went back and read her history, and she has kind of like a really, really tough childhood, and
I didn't know that.
Kind of, I mean, just not a good, by our standards. But that her mother she had 78 RPM records, and there was one singer that she just got fixed by the name of Connie Boswell. And I said, Connie Boswell? I've never heard of Connie Boswell. So then I go to Wikipedia, and there's a big section on Connie Boswell.
Right.
And then I go to YouTube, and I said, any videos? Are there any videos of Connie Boswell? Yeah, there's lots of videos of Connie Boswell. And she was a big bang. She was like she was considered the first kind of uniquely star female singer, and she was white. She was white. She wasn't, she wasn't African American. She was white.
Right.
And she had a particular voice, and she had a particular cadence. And you could, when I listened to Ella Fitzgerald, I can see things she might have picked up from her. Like, I mean, you're making it up, but everything like that. And like this, they were filming this woman in the 1930s. So this is 90 years ago. 90 years ago. And I said, so that visible record, the captured record of high-performing people in all fields gets deeper and deeper as we go into the future.
Yes. Yes, because so much, you're absolutely right, everything. I just think, when you look at it now, are you recording all these Zoom workshops that you're doing?
Yeah, everything's recorded. Yeah.
Everything, yeah. So you just think there's never...
Because I was first into the pool for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I was doing the 2-hour sessions. And then we had the other coaches that were, we wanted the other coaches to get on board. And so, but they used mine and how we did it and how we structured it and how I handled things and everything. So that was sort of the teaching model for their first month of actually doing it. They would, and it was the 2-hour ones that gave us the structure for the 6-hour ones, which I've now done 8. I've now done 8 6-hour workshops. And I've kind of got it down now where I'm not worried about the structure or anything else. I'm just paying attention to what's happening, what people are thinking and that. And I notice I'm getting funnier, and.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. And I'm picking on people, I'm starting to pick on people, So.
Okay.
What are you up to?
I love it.
What are you up to? What are you doing now? Yeah. Then I asked them about their backgrounds, and we had 4 people who showed up with the exact same Zoom background. You can put various Zoom backgrounds.
Yeah, right.
And I said, there's 3 other coach people on that beach. Have you seen the other 3 people?
They're not. Yeah, you're not social distancing. Wait a second.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I mean, it's just so. I'm excited, Dan. So much opportunity. But the interesting thing, what I did have an awareness of when you were talking about the VR headset the lens that we're looking through reality at. When I go back to that interview with that Hoffman gentleman, that you say it's interesting that's we've evolved to see those things as a good handy representation of reality, in the way that we see Windows on our desktop kind of thing as a representation of reality, of what's actually going on. It's like, but it's not the actual thing. If you take a file on your MacBook and you drag it to the trash can, you're not physically dragging it to the trash can. That's a representation of what's happening. But it's also masking what's actually going on behind the scenes with all the ones and the zeros and the things. And it was funny to me, the parallel was how you and I have been discussing as part of, what causes the procrastination is the verb that we're choosing to put beside the activity. is, write your book is different than brainstorm your book, which is everybody's excited about it. But the actual verb, the actual mechanical thing is really it's really in the same place. It's really, it's really sitting in the chair with your pen or with your, fingers at the keyboard. It's really the same. It's the same activity, and all the things that we're doing are really the entertainment of it, I guess. We're adding the importance of these things, and it put in perspective for me personally. It put in perspective this sense of the seduction of the vastness of opportunities, like where the fear of missing out or a better opportunity or doing something, what you could be doing. Often like what you're saying about swimming in the ocean, feeling like you missed out on a lot of it, but realizing
out of the water.
Exactly, that it's the same thing, that a lot of times entrepreneurs that are restless within their business are being seduced by the something better, but really what that is that's just the intellectual stimulation of it. It's not going to change anything physically about it, right? For me, it would be about different conversations or different ways that my mind thinks, but it's not like going from sitting in a chair to going out, putting roofs or chopping wood or something. I'm not talking about a physical change in what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and this is, a very crucial issue as, computers get faster and computers become more integrated with everything. And it has to do with the word process or process, if you're process. And there's this statement made that the human brain processes information and computers process information, and they process it faster than we do. And, and there's this point made, but it's that there's this attempt in the computer world to establish something the same about what humans do, with their brains and what the computer's doing. And therefore, as we speed up the computers, of course, they'll be processing information a lot faster than we will. And I read this article, and he said, but humans don't process information. We transform information. That you and I, in the exact moment, being in the same situation and sort of experiencing something, do something totally different with the input than each other. Both of us begin taking that information and using it to alter previous experiences and, altering our vision of the future and everything else. And there's no processing going on. There's transformation going on.
Mm-hmm.
Why we like computers is that they actually do process the information.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
and if you give the same information to 10 computers, the processing is exactly the same. Give it to 10 humans and you've got totally different realities going on. 10 people with the same input. So the input is
perceptions.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about that. Go ahead.
No, that's very interesting. Because what he was talking about with the simulations, that's in the games that they simulation games that they play out, that the ones that are almost immune to all that distraction are the ones that are that survive or evolve or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah, and I think that the incredible skill, and I see it among entrepreneurs because that's my daily business is with entrepreneurs, that entrepreneurs have an unusual short-term adaptability. And what I mean is that they realize that what I do in the next hour could change my life. What I do in the next 8 hours can change my entire quarter, you know. And there's just a sense that what is happening in the moment is really, really crucial. And I think the reason is because of two decisions that entrepreneurs made way back then. You made it, I made it, every entrepreneur made it. And that is, we absolved the rest of the world of all responsibility for our financial security, and we absolved the world, of all responsibility for our opportunities. We said, no, you don't. We're not holding you, and that means that I'm taking 100% of responsibility for what's happening in the short term, and I can act on it because by letting the rest of the world off, that it's not responsible for security, it's not responsible for opportunity. It gives me 100% power to do with the next hour, the next 8 hours, anything I want to do. And I don't have to ask anyone's permission. Right.
I love that. I mean, it's it really is. That's the coolest thing. Are you saying that? I was thinking about Chaz, and I wonder. I haven't heard anything. I've tried not to pay attention to the news now, but have you heard anything about what's going on in
I've been
Chaz
following
now?
it.
It's a pretty amazing experiment.
Yeah, I've been mainly reading articles on it, you know, people saying, and somebody said it's probably the best run that 6 square block of Seattle has been in the last 50 years, you know, so.
The best what?
It's 6 blocks by 6 blocks, the area is 6 blocks by 6 blocks, so 36 blocks. And but somebody said, you know, it's probably better run than those 6 blocks were, that those 36 blocks were any time during the last 30 or 40 years, you know.
Oh, really? So it's going well? Is that the...
Well, I don't know. No, I think they were saying that it was terrible before, and now it's got some semblance order. You know, I mean, it's all over the map, and but they're totally dependent on the outside for donations. You know, like truckers, for example, the trucking companies that they won't deliver anything in there because their safety can't be guaranteed. So I think they're being reminded daily that they can say anything they want, but they're 100% dependent on what lies outside of Chaz, you know. So well, I think they should do it in maybe 10 other cities and then compare notes, you know.
Yeah, and I wonder, that's the thing, right? When you wonder if you had to reset, begin again, everybody, you know, talks about how unhappy with the current situation, but you wonder, you know, how would you do it differently if you had to start over?
Yeah,
it's a lot of. They'd end up coming to the same conclusions.
Yeah, I mean,
in a lot of ways, right?
If you can still call mom, it probably isn't completely independent.
Right, exactly. Oh, that's right. Mom, I need you to get me on the unlimited data package. Come on.
Mom, we're not supposed to get outside food, but if you just come to this particular alleyway, I'll meet you there. And put it in one of those duffel bags that's got rollers on it. You know, I don't want to carry the thing, you know. So.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Yeah.
So what's going to be, Dan, the first couple of new workshop ideas that you have now with this new capability? Well,
it's really worth punching in for one of the. Well, your workshop is within 2 weeks, the free zone. And, so the free zone is really interesting. I've been working with Stephen Palter and for the Lodestone, his Lodestone platform. And so far we've got one free zone client who's used it to great effect, and that was David Riley. If you'll remember, he's got the community banks in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And so Lodestone is essentially a way of calling an event that you can go national or global. In this case, it was national because it was within the framework of the PPP, the Payroll Protection, the thing where the banks would distribute federal money to companies, essentially, So this is about, I would say, 4 weeks after the PP went out. And then there was a misunderstanding about what's the terms here, what's the repayment terms, there's forgiveness terms and everything else. And this is the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Federal Small Business Administration. Mm-hmm. So David had distributed 1,500 loans, and we were one of them. And we applied through David, because you could apply through a bank, and we got the money in 3 days. And Bank of America, we were still waiting after 4 weeks. So it shows, and no, I mean, he knows us and we know. It shows the value of knowing somebody. And so he got really excited because he sat in on a couple of Stephen Palter's Zoom calls with doctors around the world about how they're responding to the lockdown for certain specialties, but others were deemed essential, and what that was doing to people's thinking. Yeah. And the White House was plugged into what Stephen was doing, so they had a person who sat in on all of them, and then took the discussion findings back to the White House, for their discussions. And so David says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do an event for everybody I've given a loan out. So we'll just have an event. It'll be a 1 hour, Cloudlandia event. And it's on Zoom. And what you do is that it goes out as a post. It's a marketing post. And if you want to be in on this phone call, just register here. And in order to register, you got to answer 2 questions. What about the PPP is keeping you awake at night worried? What about the PPP? What kind of information would you need for not to be worried? Okay, and I put that out. And then that's analyzed by Watson. Actually, they use Watson, IBM's Super. And they show these are the 3 biggest issues that everybody. So they put it out to 1,500, 1,200 said they'd like to come, 800 showed up. But it was interesting. 800 showed up and 800 stayed. Not a person left during the hour. So it was wasn't boring. And then the topics then target what kind of expert you want. They have 4 experts. They had one from the Small Business Administration, a lawyer, and a payroll, and an accountant, and a banking expert. And David was just the moderator. But meanwhile, what they were paying attention to as the experts talked, what the chat was, and so they had a chat line, and they just had thousands of chat comments, continual chat comments. And then that's analyzed, and that creates the next topic. So he's doing a series of this. Long story short, that's what for our listeners, that's what Lodestone is. So, but other people would talk to Stephen, and they say, "Well, how does the technology work?" And of course, you're dead in the water if you're having a description. Well, it's kind of like Zoom. I mean, I don't see the difference with Zoom, and you're gone. And so Steve and I sat down and said, Lodestone is perfect for you if these 7 things are true for you. Okay?
Oh, there you go.
And it's 7 statements about the person reading it. And it's yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And Stephen only wants to talk to you if all 7 are true.
Okay.
So he doesn't want any talk about technology. And he says, look, I've got a worldwide patent on it. It works. He says,
Right.
Best IP firm in Silicon Valley got us a patent on this. It works. And he says, that's all I'm going to tell you. Question is, are you the sort of person that it would work for?
Mm.
So you switch the conversation. It isn't about Lodestone. It isn't about Stephen. It's about the person who's inquiring. And then we did a writable PDF. I'll send it out to you. I'll send you.
I was going to say, I wonder what kind of things are in that.
No. I'll send out Stevens, and then I'll send out writable PDF so that you can do yours. I think you'll take to it like a duck to water. I mean,
I love it.
You'll get it. It's kind of like 9. It's like 7 9-word emails.
Yes, right.
And but the yes, no, it's not 50% there or 60%. It's yes or no. And immediately within when I revealed it on, I just did it on and Stephen has been on the free zone connectors. There's 2 this week. There's 1 tomorrow and there's 1 on Wednesday. And but I'll send it out to you.
Oh, nice. I think tomorrow, I might jump. I would love to jump on. Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll have a great deal to say about it because, my sense is that 25 years of thinking will immediately arrive at the scene when you see what I've done with this.
Oh,
but it's just worked wonders for Stephen and other people have used it and say, geez, I should be doing this with everything. I said, wherever you would think about doing a mindset scorecard, use this as the mindset scorecard would be behind the scenes, what you would present, and it's called the perfect fit. It's called the perfect fit tool. And,
I love it.
Yeah. So I'll send that out to you, and it's dynamite. I mean, the room, Stephen's been on about 3 of them right now, and, he says what a difference this way of communicating has done. And see, we always make it about ourselves, but it's actually about the other person. It's either yes or no. It's binary. It's either a 1 or it's a 0,
Yeah.
And and people...
well, that fits in totally with the always be the buyer, too. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Mindset,
You're the buyer, yeah. And, so, I used to do it at trade shows where I got tired of standing, and people would come up to me and say, tell me why I should be interested in strategic coach. And I thought, well, I said, I can tell you right now, you're not interested in strategic coach. So there's nothing I can tell you. And he said, no, tell me. I said, I have to tell you, this is totally not the program for you. I can tell right off just the way you approach me. It tells me that strategic coach is not the program for you. No, come on. No.
I love it. That's the best.
But after you've been there for 16 hours on your feet, this isn't going anywhere. This is
right.
This is dead on arrival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
so where did we push the frontier further today?
Well, I think we've both come to the conclusion that this Zoom opportunities are, there's so many unique opportunities that are just because of Zoom. Thinking about it as that instant teleportation device that we can gather people instantly, and thinking about the what that brings the opportunity to talk about on this. What kind of experiences we're creating there. I mean, I just look at I was having this thought about school, how, they're giving now a choice here in Florida that they're starting to poll parents now where you may have the choice of either sending your kids back to the physical environment or having them go through online classes. But it feels like, man, there's so many, like, education is really gonna win, because now you're not just limited to the luck of the draw teacher that you get for sixth grade math, because your school district is this and that teacher is the one. You've got there's infinite possibilities to have a more overall kind of approach.
Why don't we just have one math teacher, and it's Salman Khan? We just use Salman Khan.
Exactly.
He's a really good math teacher. He's a good math teacher. It's about 8 minutes. Each lesson's about 8 minutes. He's very patient. He's got electric ink. It's beautiful ink, and that. Why don't we have all school children in America taught math by Salman Khan?
Yes. That's what I think. Facilitated by then the teachers just get to become facilitators in a way, right? Somebody hosting the Zoom opportunity. Yeah, there's lots of opportunity that way.
Oh yeah, and people said, they're missing school. I said, yeah, but who? I said, yeah, but they're being saved from what's being told to them in school.
That's true. Exactly.
I said, who hasn't had an opportunity to influence your children for the last 3 months?
Yes. They're citizens of Cloudlandia.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because somebody wrote a plausible article. The thing, unfund the police. Have you seen that?
Yes, defund police.
Yeah. I said, why don't we unfund college administrators and professors?
Uh-huh.
Seems to me that this is where all these bad ideas come from.
Right.
Police are just caught. The police are just caught in the middle between, highly political situations and and everything. And I'm sure there's bad cops, and good cops, and bad cops. But I got a feeling that it's a tense occupation.
There's something here, Dan, when you start thinking about, when you start looking at demonetization in a way, what we're seeing now in this transition, when you start to see that concerts and big gatherings of stuff like physical things are being demonetized now, that going to the movies or but
there's been a lot of I think there's just been a lot of habits broken, the habits of paying attention to professional sports. I have the foggiest idea if any of them are the two leagues that are going to probably make it are the National Hockey League and Major League Baseball.
Tell me why.
Most of their players aren't American citizens.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting.
So they don't have any issue about the flag.
Uh-huh. Right. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Flag, national anthem, well, whatever. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I can see the league's taking a real hit because they think, people are just sitting there chomping at the bit for them to come back. And I said, I don't know. They've had 3 or 4 months of doing something else. I don't know if they're going to come back.
Right. Yeah, that's and people are experimenting. I guess the Dana White is opening, with MMA stuff, the Fight Island where they're making these spectacular pay-per-view things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all sorts of neat experiments and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always remember my mother, she was quarantined. Her family was quarantined in 1918 for the worst. It was a terrible flu. It killed 50 million worldwide. But her household, it was 3 months in West Cleveland, and nobody could go in, nobody could come out. They had so I was talking to her about it when she was about 75. I talked to her, and I said, do you remember any changes that happened? She said, yeah, I do. She says, everybody on the block got a telephone afterwards.
Yeah. Wow.
That changed life. I mean, having a phone changed life, so yeah, I think lots of unpredictable things are going to happen as a result of this. And people saying, well, this is very, very clear. This is going to happen. I said, nothing's clear that it's going to happen. Right.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Okay. I'm taking a break. So next week I'm at the cottage, and I'm just going to take a break from everything.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, so it'll be 2 weeks from today, if you're clear.
Okay, perfect.
If this is good for you.
Yes, I will be.
Okay.
And then I'm going to look into tomorrow.
I'll send the perfect fit over to you. And just take a look at it. And it's a writable PDF, so you have Stephen's
my own parameters, right?
And you can,
yeah.
Okay.
We'll do it.
I'll do this within the next 5 minutes.
Thanks, Dan. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.